Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the show. I am on at my regular time. It is 5 o'clock Eastern, and you are watching Real Talk with Mary Grace. This is a live show. We are on Periscope, YouTube, and uh, Facebook. So wherever you are, please copy the link and share it. If you're on Facebook and you belong to groups, please share within the group that you're in. And I want to give a little housekeeping point before I start. I have gotten some questions and comments sometimes about the volume, and I just want to let you know that I have done everything on my end possible to give you the best volume with what I have right now. And so if you're experiencing if you're experiencing problems with the volume, I suggest that you check your device. You might need a headset. You might need to turn up the volume. You might need to use a different application. So if you're on Periscope, go to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go to Periscope, et cetera, et cetera. Just to let you know that, because I'm not going to stop and troubleshoot the volume. I am going to try to talk a little bit louder because I know I have a soft voice, but I wanted to just let you know that because there's so many factors with the volume. So hope we got that out of the way. Make sure you're following me. This is Mary Grace Media. And if you have trouble remembering all of these links, you can just go to my website, marygracemedia.com, and you can click on the links for my social media right there on the website, marygracemedia.com. You can click on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube directly from there. I don't know how much longer I'll be on YouTube. I will stay there as long as I can. I did set up an account on Rumble, and so I'm gonna try to get some videos uploaded on there. As you know, yeah, Praying Medic did made me laugh too. As you know, as you know, the censorship is increasing, and I really believe that it's going to get worse and worse because those of you who watched the press briefing today that Trump's legal team did will realize that will realize that there are a lot of people all over the country and the world, and especially in Washington, who are really, really worried right now. And so there's a very high likelihood, there's a very high likelihood that uh, the social media big tech giants who told Congress yesterday and this week or the day before sat there and lied and tried to pretend that they're not censoring uh, conservatives. They do that every time they go to Congress. So I'm not really sure what the point is of the hearings, except that it keeps Congress from accomplishing other things like getting relief to the people who are being shut down once again because of their governors pretending that we are in a crisis situation with a medical thing that has been overblown. So do be prepared. I am on Clout Hub. I am on I am on Rumble now, and I'm on Parlor. I hardly ever go there, but just so you know that that is a backup, and it's Mary Grace Media on all of those platforms. Okay, so class, how are you feeling about the news? Those of you who've been watching and listening to me throughout this process, I hope that what you saw today, if you watched the press briefing, I'm hoping that most of you who've been following me would have looked at that press briefing and said, "Oh, I already knew this was coming. This is what Mary Grace said was going to happen. She already told us that we have evidence. She already told us that they cheated and they did a lot of it online. She already told us that the case wouldn't most likely be proven with just the paper ballots and the ballot switching at the local level. Didn't I tell you that? Okay. I'm pretty sure I did. So, so I think that, you know, I just want to give myself a little pat on the back because I'm pretty dialed in, and a lot of you guys are new to this. A lot of my listeners are new to this. And so I know that it's a little bit scary because you're just coming from maybe a steady diet of fake news. Maybe you're coming from Fox and you thought that you could trust them. Maybe you're just waking up to politics because you really thought that your president would get reelected easily, and you went to bed on Tuesday night thinking that he was easily winning, and then the next morning and you woke up and couldn't believe what happened. And so I really want to thank you for being here and for supporting me and uh, for coming back and for sharing the show with your friends and for just hanging in here because this is a wild ride. It is a very important one. And based on what we saw today, I think that overstate the fact we can't overstate the fact that we're in a time right now where if we don't win this election, if we don't get this right, we will have no more elections in this country of consequence, meaning that your vote will never count again. And I can't stress that enough. And so, those of you who may be new, and those of you who have resigned yourself to thinking that, well, we will get another chance in 2024. Well, at least we have the Senate. Well, at least we have this. I want to stress to you that that's just not true, because what they did to this election, what they tried to do in stealing this election is big. It's a criminal enterprise. It is a crime that took place on a very large scale across international lines, and it is it's a crime that took place across international lines, and it will be proven in a court of law. Now, I want to go over a couple of the things that they talked about today in the press briefing. It was a very long press conference, and it was over an hour and a half with the questions. The only place that I've been able to find the full replay is RSBN on YouTube and on Periscope. Some of the other networks cut it. I don't know why, but if you want to go back and watch the entire thing, it's RSBN on YouTube or Periscope. They may have it on Facebook as well. I just haven't looked, but they did air the entire thing, and they did they did air the entire thing, including the questions. So I encourage you, to go back and listen to it. I didn't check OAN yet, but America's Voice they didn't have the whole thing. I think their feed got cut. I was really having problems with the feed on my TV. So obviously it was being censored on different platforms. So here we go. I just blocked that person, Millie. So she's gone. Okay. So now here is what I wanted to say. I'm just going to review because I know that people are busy and I know that not everybody has been dialed into this. So here we go. What we're seeing across many, many states is that what we're seeing across the states and the argument that Rudy Giuliani laid out is that the election was basically stolen, and that there was widespread coordination across multiple states. Okay. And there was widespread coordination. And he showed a map, he showed the swing states, and he talked about the fact that these states all of them had many thousands of ballots that came in, after midnight, sometime between like midnight and 4 a.m., and that they were counted somehow magically in the dark of night, and that every one of those races where Trump was winning, they flipped from Trump to Biden, and that's something that most people saw. And so why is this important, and what kind of legal case are they trying to mount? The long and the short of it is that there's a couple things. One is that Rudy was calling into question the behavior in those different voting locations, because the morning after the election, a lot of the election observers were prevented from observing. So that's one piece of it. And he was calling into question the fact that that decision was made across multiple states, across multiple voting jurisdictions. And so he was saying, how was that a coincidence? So that was one aspect of it. The other aspect was the way that they were treating the ballots. And it's an equal access issue. It's an equal protection issue under the law. And an example he gave was that in some places, voters were given the opportunity to cure their ballots, and in other places they weren't. And so that's an equal protection question. All right. So that's the basics of what Rudy Giuliani was laying out. Now, there are people who will tell you that those things wouldn't amount to enough information to flip the numbers back to Trump. So you're going to hear that. You're going to hear that online. You're going to hear that on the mainstream media. You're going to see people saying that just challenging those numbers isn't going to give you a consequential difference enough to show that Trump won. And they may be right. And so I've talked to you about this. I've talked to you about the fact that the ballot switching on its face doesn't necessarily give you that type of result. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about what Sidney Powell was saying. And this is something that I've told you about before. So Sidney Powell, when she came up and she talked about what was going on with the actual voting machines and software, and she laid out the case for what they have discovered with regard to the Dominion voting machines, the Smartmatic software and technology, and how it was developed and how it was laid out. And it's important that you understand this element of it, because what she was describing, for example, is that it was designed for people to be able to switch the votes in real time just within the computer. So it could be basically hacked. It could be hacked. And she said, we know for a fact Dominion had their own people in Detroit on election night. Now, do you remember that I told you that it was pretty clear that the left was switching votes in real time, that overnight, for example, they were bringing in ballots, but they also had this software set up in such a way that they would take votes away from Trump, and then they would give them back to Biden. So that's one thing we know for sure. We know that, and so Sydney says we know for a fact that Dominion had somebody in Detroit. She also said that these companies, Dominion, Smartmatic, that people are coming forward. People who work in these companies are coming forward. Now, one thing that I told you is, and I had surmised this from the very beginning, and then it was confirmed to me. It was confirmed to me over the weekend, and that is that we have people on the inside, that we have infiltrated their organizations at many levels, and so we're aware of what's going on. So we do have whistleblowers that are coming forth organically now. We have tons of affidavits of people who have worked in these government offices, who work in elections offices, and they're seeing what's happening, and they can't sit silently and wait for it to happen again. They don't want this to be allowed to go forward. But we also have so-called whistleblowers who actually either were deep cover people that we put in, or people that we got to early on, I mean, years ago, and managed to turn them and get them to work for the White Hats and to gather information. And so that, and if you think, if you want to get your head around this, think about this as a drug bust, as a major, major drug bust. Because anytime you have something like this going down, you have to have people undercover, and real crimes will be committed in the process. And sometimes the people that you have undercover will actually commit the crimes, and that's allowed when you're doing a sting operation or an undercover operation. That person won't be prosecuted for the crime because they are part of the operation that's meant to uncover the crime. Okay, so are you with me? And when you think about the magnitude and the scale of what Sidney Powell was describing and what Rudy Giuliani is describing, it really does help to try to think on a Godfather scale, on a scale of a massive multinational criminal mob operation. And so, if you think of it that way, it really helps you to understand how the pieces all fit together. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out why we have Rudy Giuliani on this case, and why he did such a masterful job earlier today of laying out his opening argument for what was being done and how they're going to handle it in court. And I got to tell you, if I were the left, and if I were the people who had committed these crimes, and I watched the attorneys today, if I watching Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, and Sidney Powell, if I watched their opening arguments and I heard the way that they responded to the media, I would be really, really worried, because the statements that these people are making, meaning the attorneys, the statements that they're making, and the certainty with which they are making these statements would scare an actual criminal, because attorneys with this level of expertise and the number of years and cases that they've prosecuted, they don't make statements like that. They don't make the kind of statements that these attorneys were making unless they are 100% absolutely certain that they have a case. And I will give you an example. Thank you, Jim, for the super hearts. I'll give you an example. So Rudy Giuliani said, um, he said, I want to quote it to you. Um, there was so much that came out of this press conference. I cannot um, summarize it all. So I urge you, as your civic duty, to go and find the recording and listen to the entire thing, because it's incumbent upon every single American to understand what was happening here, and never ever to allow it to happen again. I can't stress that enough. Don't watch TV tonight. Don't watch Netflix. Do whatever you need to do. Watch it in 10-minute segments. Watch it, listen to it. You don't have to watch it, you can listen to it. Listen to it when you're exercising. I don't care what you do to get it listened to get it inside your head, but you really need to understand what's happening here. And there's no way I can summarize it. And so that's your homework. It's so important. And it's your homework to be able to describe this to at least 5 other people who have no idea what's going on and really think that Joe Biden won this election. Because there are a lot of people who voted for Trump who really think that it's over. And so I'm going to give you that homework. I'm going to ask on Monday who did it and how many people you talked to. So this is your teacher giving you homework. Go listen to it and figure out how to describe it and how to explain it in 2 minutes or less to people that you really care about, because this is really critical that people understand. Now, this is what Rudy Giuliani said. He said, uh, he said, um, he said, the people who did this have committed one of the worst crimes I have ever seen. I'm going to repeat that. All right. He said, the people who did this have committed one of the worst crimes I have ever seen. Rudy Giuliani is 74 years old. Okay, how long has he been a prosecutor? He was the mayor of New York. He was a federal attorney, a U.S. attorney. Okay, for the Southern District of New York. This is a man who has seen horrendous crimes. This is a man who took down the mob. You think about this, okay? Think about it. 76 years old. So when a man with his experience says, this is one of the worst crimes I have ever seen, this is not hyperbole. He's telling you not only how bad it is, but that he has the goods. Sidney Powell is telling you, she's telling you that she is showing you a fraction of the information. She's showing you a fraction of the information, and that she can't release the proof that she has, for, you know, you can't do that. You can't spill out all of your evidence before you actually go to court. And that's something that Jenna Ellis was saying. And I think this is an important point, is that when you look at the magnitude of the crime here, Jenna Ellis said, look, we're asking for time. We are asking for our day in court to prove to the judge and to the American people what happened here. And that's really important. And she made a point to the press, such as it is, that was in the room, and she said, clearly none of you has ever been a court reporter, because if you were, you would understand how court cases actually work, and that things don't get handled in 10 minutes or a day, but that evidence has to be brought in, and that people have to, that the attorneys have to be able to make their case. That's just the way it works. Even when you have, and I've explained this before on my show, even when you have, for example, you know, a case where there's one victim and one perpetrator, those cases can take weeks to try. And so it just depends on the amount of evidence. This is a case that has mountains of evidence. Now, so, uh, yeah, it's a case that has mountains of evidence. And so I just want you guys to understand that too. Now, the big question, of course, is who will actually try these cases and who will prosecute? And that is a question that's really on everybody's minds, because even when somebody asked in the press briefing if the FBI was on this, if they were investigating, if they were taking up these cases, uh, the Rudy and Sydney actually laughed, and they looked around like, what FBI? And that's a damning indictment on our FBI. And so I don't know the process of how this is going to play out, but one of my hunches here is this, is that it's not being handled by the FBI, because people forget that we have other intelligence agencies under the US government. For example, DNI. We also have we have DNI. We have, and that's Radcliffe. Grinnell was the director um, of the DNI. He was DNI director prior to this. He was actually, when he was the ambassador to Germany, then he became the DNI. And somebody just pointed out, Jim pointed out in the chat, that that Grinnell was the ambassador to Germany. And I've brought this up before, and I have said before that it's no accident that Grinnell was in Germany and that he wasn't spending all of his time at the ambassador's residence just having cocktail parties. He was really working and uncovering a lot of the crime that we saw in a lot of the crimes that we've seen come out, including Ukraine. And so there are a lot of pieces to this puzzle that I don't know exactly how they're going to come together. But what I do know is that the FBI isn't the only agency that can be tasked with investigating this and with gathering the evidence. I do believe that there's a military element to this. That it's I believe that some of these people are going to be brought before military tribunals. That is an indication that we've had before. And that is something that was brought up in the confirmation hearing of Justice Kavanaugh by by Lindsey Graham. And I've talked about military tribunals before. I've talked about the precedent that's been set for trying civilians in military tribunals. And so I wouldn't rule any of that out. We have NSA, we have military, we have agencies that could be investigating and bringing charges that we don't know about. So that's important. We also know that there are thousands and thousands of sealed indictments that are being that have yet to be unsealed in multiple states. And so, are they related to this specifically? I don't know. But one thing that Sidney Powell brought out today, and this is important that people understand, is that she put a lot of people on notice because she brought up the connection between the the voting software, the international organizations that are connected to that, and then she mentioned uh, two names that I'm not going to mention on my broadcast because of the censorship, but people can put it in the chat on whatever platform you're on. One starts with a C, the other one starts with an S. And so she brought that into the conversation, and she brought them in the same sentence, and she was very clear about that. And so one thing that I want to emphasize here is that what we saw today and what we heard Sidney Powell and Jenna Ellis and Rudy Giuliani talking about were what is really just a tip of the iceberg of what they have. I can't emphasize that enough. I see a lot of people asking me if we have the server. So here's what I want to say about that. I want to say to you, don't worry about that, because the story about the server is one of those things that people get focused on. That's one of those little shiny objects that people are getting hyper focused on, and they want to know: do we have the server? Do we have the server? Do we have the server? That was brought out of Germany. Louis Gohmert said that he said that the server was captured or removed, right? But he also said that we have the information. And so I want you to stop worrying about that. Okay? Stop getting distracted. That's a squirrel. Because what I'm telling you is that we don't need that piece of equipment that everybody is focused on. We have the information that we need. And this is what I told you on Monday. I told you that I had confirmation that we have what we need. And when you go back to what Sidney Powell was talking about today, I want you to think about this. So, Rudy Giuliani is talking about equal protection, he's talking about ballots. The media is going to spend a lot of time talking about that. They're going to be focusing on the fact they're going to bring up the idea that you can't trade and you can't you don't have an open and shut case, that even if you find this many ballots that were bad or invalidated, that you can't that's not going to switch the numbers. And so I'm pretty sure if I were to turn on one of those networks, that's the kind of story that you would see. They're also going to try to discredit Rudy Giuliani. They're going to try to discredit the attorneys. They're going to tell you that multiple lawsuits have been dismissed, multiple Trump lawsuits have been dismissed, and that we've lost those cases. You might want to take notes on this because people are going to start feeding you this disinformation. They're going to tell you that multiple lawsuits have been dismissed. They're going to tell you that lawyers are dropping out because they don't want to be a part of this. They're going to tell you that you can't change an election on a few bad ballots, and those are the talking points that they're going to try to tell you because most low information voters don't understand the bigger implications of what's going on here. They're not really going to talk about the equal protection clause. They're not going to talk about the fact that these elections, based on the evidence we have, the elections won't get certified by at the state level. And so this is important to understand. And the truth is, Rudy said we have three lawsuits that we filed. We have three federal lawsuits. Lynn Wood himself has filed a lawsuit as a private citizen. The other lawsuits that they're talking about are private lawsuits that were dismissed because there was no standing. These are lawsuits that were brought by individuals, and some of them were brought even before the election. So just keep that in mind. The other part of this is that attorneys are dropping out because they're afraid for their lives. Their families are getting threatened. Their practices are getting threatened. Their existing clients are getting harassed, and their clients are harassing them. And so keep that in mind. And what was the other point that I told you? I can't remember. But the main thing is that you need to develop the ability to separate the signal from the noise and to drill down and to understand exactly what's going on here and to know when the media is gaslighting you with talking points that are based in half truths. So the truth is that there are lawsuits that have been dismissed, correct? There are lawyers who are dropping out. All of that is true, but they're not giving you the rest of the story. And so it's up to you to watch shows like this and to do the research and to listen to the press conference from today and to make sure that you understand the truth of what's really going on here because this is huge. The other part of this that I want you to understand is that this is a that the criminal aspect of what you see going on here is multinational, that it's international, that the people who conspired to commit these crimes are actually in violation of the president's executive order that he signed on the 12th of September 2018, which very clearly outlines and defines foreign interference in our elections. This is what we're dealing with here. And this is the story that the mainstream media refuses to cover. In fact, Sidney Powell herself said, this is the consummate, this is the consummate foreign interference in our election. This is the most consummate foreign interference in our elections you can possibly imagine. And so that's the key. This is foreign interference with our elections, and the people who are a part of the media, the people uh, who are the people who are conspiring with them, including the news media, are criminal co-conspirators. So the part of this case that you're not hearing them talk about is really important. And do you remember I've told you in the past that when you are listening to the president and when you're watching people like Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani, you want to watch out for what they're telling you, but you also want to look for what's not being said. And so if you go back and you look at that executive order that I talked about which is available on whitehouse.gov. If you look at that, you will see, and you go read that, and you go look at the definitions of the crimes that could be committed, and the individuals who would be conspiring. It's important that you then go back and read that, and then go listen to the press conference from today, and think about all of the parts of that press conference that are all of the parts of the executive order that didn't come into the conversation today. So, again, what is it that they're showing you, and what is it that you're not hearing, and what is it that you're not seeing? Because this is key. And they said multiple times that if we show you everything we have today, then we don't have a case in court, because that's not the way it works. You can't put all your cards on the table before you actually even go into court. So so that is the key. All right, and I want you to focus on the signal, not the noise. Start thinking critically about what it is that they're not saying out loud, and also focus on the deafening silence from the media. One of the things that Rudy Giuliani said today, and I believe this is really true, and I think that people who are praying through this, it's really important to pray this, and this is another reason why you have to be preparing your friends, especially those who believe that Joe Biden won this election. Is that he said the censorship that is going on in this country is almost as dangerous as the election fraud. That's really strongly worded, and that is important to understand, that because it's true. The amount of censorship, the suppression that the media is engaged in, and the outright lies that they are telling their people, it's dangerous, because they're setting these people up to believe that this man, this demented man, who spent the last 9 months in a basement, who doesn't even know where he is half the time, that he has been chosen to be the leader of the free world, and that record numbers of people that record numbers of people have emerged out of the shadows in the middle of a pandemic, even though they were afraid to go out in public without double and triple masking. That record numbers of people came out and voted for this man. Do you believe it? Well, some people do. And so the media is setting them up. The media is 100% culpable, the legacy media, because they are calling him President-elect Biden. They're pushing and pushing and pushing, and um, they are pushing and pushing and pushing a narrative that just absolutely isn't true, and that is going to cause a lot of damage in this nation. So we really need to, I want you to just pray that the media, that somebody in the media will start to uh, dribble out this information, maybe even at the local level, the local networks, the affiliates of the fake news media. I don't know how it's going to start, but there needs to be an awakening, so that people can really not be hit over the head with it, because some of the Trump supporters, for the most part, are a little bit more stable. I say that reservedly, because not everybody is, but my point is that that she that I think like for most Trump supporters, waking up the next morning and hearing that Biden actually won, maybe they're handling it, I think, better than the Biden people are going to handle hearing that he didn't win after all. Does that make sense? I see Rachel in the chat. Hey, Rachel. So that's um, yeah. So that's important. We really need to pray for these people. I see Greg Harvey too. So, right, there's a lot going on here because the media has really they've really done a number on gaslighting these people and really miring them in fear. I mean, I made a joke about people who are going out double and triple masked. I'm not. It's not even a joke. These people are terrified. They're wearing gloves out. You know, to walk their dogs. I mean, they're wearing masks on a walking trail with nobody around. I mean, it just they really have been brainwashed, and so they're not. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm telling you what I've observed. So uh, they're not really dealing in a level of reality that's necessary at this moment for them to move ahead in a healthy way, and the media is largely responsible for this. It's extremely, it's very sad. um, it's But it's troubling as well, because they're in for a very, very, very hard fall. That's what I'm trying to say. They really are. And so we need they need help. They really do need help. And you've got people going into lockdowns again. You have all of these states that are being pushed, that are pushing their people into lockdowns again, and they're they have them terrified about case numbers. They're not reporting to them the study that came out from Denmark about the inefficacy of masks. They're not reporting any of that. They're just driving this narrative that it's getting worse, getting worse, getting worse, that we're heading into the dark winter. And so there has to be a breaking of this. Hold on a second. I need to plug in my computer. There's something wrong with the power. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Now, yeah, so one of the things that I really need to emphasize too is that they have to stop the testing. I really believe that. Um, I really feel like the more they test, the worse this is going to get, because I just feel like that a lot of these hospitals and providers are being incentivized with the testing. And so, the money that's being poured into this, the gravy train has to stop. And I think if that's the case, then the testing will stop. But the main thing is we have to get the president over the line, and we have to yeah, we have to get him. We have to solve this problem, right? Now let me look at my notes because I want to make sure I didn't forget anything here. How are you feeling about the press conference, about the election, about the case that we have right now? Is everybody in a good place now? You do need to go and watch that press conference so you understand a little better about what's happening. But did I do a good job of explaining it? Are we good? Because um, I want to talk about the military for a minute. I'm just going to look at your comments here. Uh, yeah, there's all kinds of wrong with everything that's happening with COVID. One thing I will say, and I've said this the other recently, is um, that this is a moment, this is a watershed moment for patriots, because if you don't take a stand now on these issues, if you don't take a stand on uh, wearing masks, um, you're not going to take a stand when they uh, try to force you to prove that you're vaccinated to go into a store, right? Everybody said, oh, it's just a mask. And I've said from the beginning that it's not. And so I really want to emphasize this, that what we're seeing right now, the 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 information coming out about the election, the lockdowns for no reason. I mean, Ohio has a curfew. The mayor of Pennsylvania I mean, the governor of Pennsylvania is telling people that they need to be that they have to wear a mask in their house. Somebody said that somebody said that there was a somewhere they were making you sign a document that said you're not going to have Thanksgiving with people outside of your household. Did I just see that? Yeah, the governor of California canceled Thanksgiving, and then he was caught out in a restaurant, in a very, very expensive restaurant, with close friends and family, and they lied and said that it was outdoors and it was indoors. And so, if people really believe that this is about a virus at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Um, yeah, the governor of I think Iowa or Idaho, one of those, just said, I it pains me to do this, but I'm going to have to make people wear masks, right? Um, so it just, yeah, you got to resist. And, it may get to the point, I hope it doesn't get to the point, but it may get to the point that it got to in Germany and Denmark, where people were out in the streets for days on end, refusing to participate anymore. And so that may happen. I hope that it doesn't, but it starts with one person at a time. And I think that you know, I'm encouraged because when I go out, I see people now. I was in a store the other day and I saw like two or three people without masks. It was great. It was awesome. Um, I have people in the chat telling me that they went to the store without a mask for the first time because they've been following directions. And I can't stress this enough. They're not going to give you back your freedom. They're not going to do it. Once you give it away, they're going to keep taking more and more and more. And this is something that I've seen with leftists, and I've seen this in politics. I've seen it on the Hill. For years, we've had Republicans who have reached across the aisle, and they've talked about doing bipartisan this or that, and we've given we've given in and compromised with the Democrats, and then they don't reciprocate. And so this is important to understand because we gave we gave 15 days to stop the spread, and then they asked for another 30 days after that, and we did, and they took it now into next year. So what part of this are you not seeing? Because they're going to keep taking advantage. And so I'm urging you to take a stand, to walk into a store without a mask on. If that doesn't work right away, go in with it on and take it off when you get in there. Don't just pull it down, take it all the way off. The reason that I say that is because I've noticed if it's down by your chin, some Karen comes along and tells you to pull it up. Okay. If it's not on at all, it actually works better. I don't know why. Psychologically, it just works better. And I've had it happen. I went into Costco yesterday. Oh, ma'am, you need a mask. I was like, no, I can't wear one. And then he says, well, then a face shield. And I said, no, can't. And I'm super nice about it. I'm not, I'm not yelling at them. Like, don't make a bad name for conservatives. Don't be that person that's yelling and cussing them out. Just be pleasant. Just be pleasantly persistent, and just say, yeah, can't, sorry, can't do it. I'm getting to the point where I want actually to say that I have a religious exemption because the fact that my government is trying to tell me now that it's a mandate to wear a face covering, and it's based on no scientific evidence at all. What I believe is that the government is actually they are muzzling my First Amendment rights, and they're forcing me to wear a face covering. And the only other places that I know that are doing that are countries that are based on a theocracy that require that for religious reasons. And so I'm on the verge of using that. Going to use my First Amendment rights to say I can't wear it on religious grounds. So that might be something we might have to do because I'm not willing to do it. So, and if people harass you in public, either just walk away from them or just say, you know what, you don't know my situation and this is none of your business. So leave me alone. And it's true. They don't know if you have a disability. They don't know. They don't know. They just don't know. And people who wear masks are getting COVID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just time to fight back. Now, let me talk about the military for just a minute. I want to tell you something that happened yesterday. All right. And this is important. Um, let me just see. Oh, by the way, the Kraken. Sidney Powell said that the Kraken has already been released. Did anybody see that? Yeah, Millie, they tried to get me to wear a face shield in Costco. I was like, no thanks, can't do it. So uh yeah, so the the Kraken has already been released. I just want you guys to know that. All right. Yeah, I think Costco does have a new policy, but it doesn't apply to me because I'm a free citizen. I'm not a subject. Okay. Now let me tell you about the military because this is important. So, there was a speech yesterday that was given by Ezra Cohen Watnick, and he was talking about special forces, and he has been brought in to be, is it the Assistant Secretary of Defense? I may be getting that wrong. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but this is important. I should have taken better notes, but the let me just uh, I want you to hear this. This is the new Secretary of Defense, okay? I'm here today to announce that I have directed the Special Operations civilian leadership to report directly to me instead of through the current bureaucratic channels. I'm here. Okay, so this is important because this is Chris Miller. This is our newly appointed Secretary of Defense. So yesterday, he gave a speech and he was talking about basically decentralizing two things: decentralizing the military, the government, but also this is important because it makes the special operations teams. It's basically makes them their own division of the military. So why is that important? So this is a vision that this is very Flynn-esque, and this is a vision I think that JFK had, which is that to dismantle they're to dismantle the centralized big government. Um, these are the people. Yeah, it's National Security Council, right? These are Flynn's people that they're taking those special ops teams out from under the swamp. Basically, they're extracting them from the swamp. Okay, uh, they're extracting them and they're putting these teams directly under the command of um, of Chris Miller. This is a big deal, and I'm not the best person to explain it because I don't have a military background, but it's a big deal because one of the things that's been happening that the military industrial complex has been doing all of this time, the Romney McCain Republicans, the Reagan not the Reagan Project, the Lincoln Project, they have been they have been they have been killing our people, our military for years. They have been uh, pushing foreign wars and getting us mired in these wars. And so the long and the short of this is that there are major changes happening at agency levels, and this is significant on many levels. One of which is that the president is continuing his presidency. He's not making moves to transition out of the White House. He is actually rebuilding with a leaner fighting machine. And he is firing people that he needs to fire. And he's bringing in a top level team that is going to get the job done. So that's really key. And so watch for more things like that to happen. It's a little tricky and it's a little bit hard to keep track of it because you just don't see it on the media. And that's one reason I'm on Twitter, is because I follow those accounts and they show things like that. And so, I know it's hard to keep up with everything, but just watch what Trump is doing and watch for things like that, because that's an indicator that he is actually, absolutely sure that we won and that we're taking the country back. And that it's going to be a very different second term than it was a first term. I can guarantee you that. I was assured by my sources that he is going to really drop the hammer on in this second term, if not before. I mean, he's already doing it on some levels. Okay, so that should encourage everybody when they see Ezra Cohen Watnick coming back into the administration, because he's a key player, and he was part of General Flynn's National Security Council team. So yeah, it's a big deal. And so when I saw it, I was very happy, even though I don't know all the ins and outs of the way the military works, but I knew that that was significant. Okay, let me just check my notes here. So, oh, there's one thing about California that I wanted to mention, um, and that is this: that California, the governor of California, has put up a tip line for people to rat out their neighbors who might be having gatherings during Thanksgiving. Oh, yeah, Kash Patel, too. Okay, so here's something that is going to be happening on Thanksgiving. So there are certain people who want you to rat out your neighbors on Thanksgiving in California. And so there's a tip line for you to call, and you can report your neighbors. So if you're in California, this is important to understand, and that is that if the police show up at your house without a warrant, um, they are not allowed in. Do not open the door. That's one thing. So they have to have a warrant. They can't just come and say, "Oh, we heard you were having a party," unless they're coming to eat and stay. So I am going to get the number for the tip line, and I'm just going to encourage everybody to call the tip line at your leisure. And this by this time next week is Thanksgiving, but probably Monday or Tuesday, there may be some addresses available um, for you to report on. Okay, and so it might be useful for all the people of this country and California to send the police to certain addresses um, of people that are blatantly disregarding their own orders. So you can probably put the pieces together there and figure that out, but I'll have more information on that next week. Okay? Because it's time to fight back, people. The people that are acting like tyrants are going to have to start getting a little taste of their own medicine. People in New York were outside of the Governor Cuomo's mansion yesterday. I think the day before. I mean, they're just they're protesting outside of his house, and that has to start happening, right? So anyway, I'll give you more information about that. Um, I will be broadcasting probably another time this weekend. If the weather's good, I may do a walk and talk. And those of you who are on Facebook and on YouTube, when I do my walking talks, you can't see me unless you go to Periscope. So I do encourage you to set up a Periscope account so that you don't miss those, because the people tell me that those are some of their favorite broadcasts that I do. And so those are usually unannounced, typically in the afternoons though. And if the weather's okay, then I do those. And so you don't want to miss that. And it's right here on my Periscope channel, which is Mary Grace Media. And that's an app that you can download. If you are on Periscope or Twitter, I encourage you to take a few minutes to put up a profile picture and to create a username that looks like a real person and not like a porn account or a sex troll. Because it's very easy for you to get blocked if you come into my scope with that type of account, especially if you're new. Yeah, you can probably watch on Twitter. Somebody said you can watch on Twitter. Okay, yeah, so Twitter or Periscope, okay? But I am telling you that if you have one of those accounts that looks like that, especially if it has a whole bunch of numbers and a blank profile picture, then you're probably going to get blocked, because I just ding, 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 block, 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 block. So just letting you know that ahead of time. Now, those of you who want to partner with the show, I wanted to tell you a few updates about my studio, and that is that I am putting together a plan to get my studio up and running, and I'm going to be putting together my materials list and getting that all together, which is exciting. I sort of um, took a little bit of a break when my mom passed away, and I'm just trying to, you know, trying to get a plan back together. But I'm working on that, and so you guys have been helping support the show, and you can continue to do that. And I wanted you to know that whatever you donate, whatever you pledge to support the show, actually goes toward the equipment and the materials for what I'm going to do with the studio, and the time that I put into researching and bringing you this content. And so you can do that by going to my website. It's marygracemedia.com, and click on support. And even if you do, $5 a month, so, that's a coffee a month, you can get real Mary Grace time for that. And so those of you who do it, I really appreciate it. It does make a difference. And another way that you can do that, another way to partner, is by actually getting organic green superfoods from me. And you can do that by also emailing me, info@marygracemedia.com. And I will give you a voucher for $50 to $100 off of your first order. 50 up to $100 off of your first order, and that gives you a whole month's supply. And so that's info@marygracemedia.com. Why would you want superfoods? Well, because if you're busy it's a very easy way to get really good nutrition in your body. If you're used to making smoothies, if you do green smoothies and kale and all those kinds of things, and you've got a refrigerator full of that stuff, this is super easy, and it gives you way more nutrients than you can get even in a refrigerator full of those veggies. And so, info@marygracemedia.com, send me that. And the shakes and smoothies are just one part of what we have, but it's a great system. There's just incredible nutrients in what I have, and it's an American based company. So it's info@marygracemedia.com. That's one way that you can support the show, because when you buy, I actually get, I do get a commission from that. So that's one of my companies. And the people who are using the superfoods, my listeners, absolutely love it. Yeah, somebody just said it tastes great. Delia's not on here, but she's lost over 40 pounds on the superfoods. And you're not hungry. It's just such a good source of nutrition. If you're busy, yeah, somebody said I have, but no response. Your email might not be getting through. So if that's the case, send me a message on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, try to get my attention on Twitter. It's at Mary Grace Media. 46.6 pounds. Wow. Do we have vitamins? Yeah, we do have some really good supplements. Whoever said that, D. Pete. Okay. Yeah. So info@marygracemedia.com. I didn't even see you, Delia. So yeah, we do have quite an array. The great thing about the superfoods, though, about the shakes, is that it's better than a vitamin. You're getting a lot of what you would get in a vitamin through the superfoods. Uh, can kids use it? Kids can absolutely use the superfoods, and we actually have some that are just for kids, and so that's great. So um, yeah, you definitely want to get the voucher from me. You really want to get the voucher so that you can you can save money. Somebody said I keep trying. What's your name? Boosh Bar B. Yeah, we talked about this the other day. Millie, can you respond to that person and see if there's another way to get in touch with them offline? Um, why did Russell get muted? Um, yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, they want to get the information, but I don't know how else. I don't know why I'm not getting their emails. Um, don't know. Okay, so I think that's it for today, you guys. It's BPT. Yeah, reply to Millie. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to. I don't know. Um, I don't know why you're not getting in touch with me. This is a good comment. I'm gonna read it. Troll on YouTube. He says, the first Mary Grace episode I saw was you walking outside on Twitter, my fave. I did not know what you were about, but after the first episode, I decided this person, Mary Grace, is fun to watch, informative. Well, that's nice. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate your comments. I appreciate the emails that you send me. While I've got Greg Harvey in here, I wanted to tell you guys he does a show every single morning. He does a devotional, and he also talks about politics. So if you are looking for an encouraging way to start your day, definitely follow him on Periscope at Greg Harvey, Greg R. Harvey, Greg R. Harvey. He has a show every morning. Hold on a second. Here's a great coupon, a great comment. Luann says, Superfoods has made my body 20 years younger, no more flab. That's so awesome. I love these superfoods testimonials. I didn't even ask for them. Uh, Carol says, I feel okay. The same way. Yes, Greg is awesome. I don't know if your comments are about me, Greg, superfoods, but they're good comments. Okay, so thank you everybody for being here today. Remember, you can support the show at marygracemedia.com. Click on support, and you can also support the show by ordering superfoods, and you can do that by emailing me info@marygracemedia.com. Don't forget to share this out. copy the link, drop it into messages, put it into groups, put it into private messages, emails, text messages, tell your friends about it. You buy the superfoods from the link that I give you. So you need to email me info@marygracemedia.com, info@marygracemedia.com, and I will give you the information. I don't know, Eric, you might have been muted, but you're back. So make sure you're subscribing. Hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification so that you don't miss a show. My regular times are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday at 5 Eastern. I may be adding a show on Wednesdays. Support what should be free. Oh, I'm gonna make a point about that. Okay, here's the thing. Yeah, it could be free, and it's free for a lot of you because I'm not keeping you from watching the show. But the thing is, I actually pay for internet, I pay for web hosting, I spend hours of my time bringing you content and curating content and listening to broadcasts and reading through content to bring you the show that I bring you. And so you may think that it's just, oh, somebody on the internet who is bringing you content that should be free. And that's your opinion, and you're entitled to that opinion. But consider the cost because you're not doing it, you're not bringing the content, and you're sitting here listening to my content and you're getting value out of it, hopefully. So if you find that it brings you value and you want to skip a coffee a month to support the show, then do it, you know? So yeah, and you don't actually have to be here. So there's that. Just checking my comments. Well, Bush I hope that you can connect. I don't know why we're not able to connect, but I hope that you can at some point. That would be great. So, yeah, Greg Harvey has a good point. He says, that a lot of time goes into the show more than just the show. Uh, let's see. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm just looking at my YouTube channel here. Yeah, Greg Harvey is really good. Okay. There you go. All right. You sent me emails. Okay, I'll get to the emails later tonight. So that's it. I'm going to sign off here. Everybody have a great evening. I may see you with a walk and talk during the weekend, and if not, I will be back on Monday at 5 Eastern. Have a great weekend, everybody.